There is a reason why sometimes a simple sound, a scent or a place awakens something deep within you, something that feels strangely familiar, yet impossible to define. A tightness in your chest, a sudden wave of sadness, or fear, sharp, irrational, and uninvited. You've felt it before, haven't you? A fear that has no name, a weight that has no cause, an anxiety that logic cannot dissolve. No matter how much you try to rationalize it, it lingers, like a shadow following you through the corridors of life. Perhaps you've asked yourself, why do I fear this? Why does the ocean make my heart race? Why do heights paralyze me, even though I've never fallen? Why does the idea of abandonment, betrayal, or confinement provoke a reaction so intense it feels older than this lifetime? The truth is, it very well might be. Dr. Brian Weiss, a man once deeply rooted in conventional psychiatry, discovered something that changed everything, not only for himself, but for countless souls across the planet. Through the profound journeys of his patients under hypnosis, he uncovered what many had long forgotten, that the mind carries memories not only from this life, but from lives long past. Yes, your soul remembers. It remembers the drowning, the fall, the betrayal, the imprisonment, the isolation, the sudden loss. And though your conscious mind has forgotten, your subconscious never has. It whispers to you through the language of sensations, of instincts, of fears that don't belong to this present moment. And yet, they shape it. How many decisions have you made, unknowingly guided by an ancient echo of suffering? How many doors have you refused to open? How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because of a fear you cannot explain? But what if this fear is not your enemy? What if it is a messenger, a guide, a bridge between who you are and who you were? Pause for a moment. Listen, truly listen, to the rhythm of your own being. Feel the tension behind your ribs, the tightness in your throat, the subtle trembling in your hands. These are not random. These are signals, portals, left by experiences that transcend the limits of this singular incarnation. You are more than this body, more than this name, more than the roles you play. When Brian Weiss guided his patients through regression, back beyond the veil of this life, they witnessed themselves in bodies not their own, living stories written centuries before, suffering, loving, learning, and often dying in ways that left marks etched into the fibers of their soul. And perhaps you are carrying the same. Imagine for a moment that the fear you carry is not a flaw but a clue, a breadcrumb left by the infinite self, calling you to remember, not to suffer it, but to transcend it. Because only through remembrance can true healing begin. The chains of the past dissolve not when they are fought, but when they are understood. When light is shone upon the darkness, it loses its power. The forgotten becomes the forgiven, and the soul finally breathes free. So the question is no longer why am I like this, but rather, what is my soul trying to show me? This is not just psychology, it is not just spirituality, it is the sacred intersection of both, the place where science meets the infinite mystery of the soul. If you feel the truth vibrating within these words, trust that it is not by chance that you are here. This is your soul responding, remembering, awakening. And as we continue this journey together, I invite you, from that quiet space within, to become part of this sacred exploration. Subscribe to this channel. Let this space be a mirror for your awakening, a sanctuary for remembrance, and a guide toward the freedom that has always been yours. Close your eyes for a moment and notice the quiet hum beneath your thoughts, that subtle current, always present, always whispering. It is the voice of your subconscious, the vast unseen realm where memories of countless lifetimes reside. Most people walk through life believing that what they perceive is all there is, but beneath the surface of your conscious mind lies an ocean of impressions, sensations, and memories, timeless, persistent, waiting to be seen. Brian Weiss discovered this truth not through belief, but through experience. As his patient slipped into deep states of hypnosis, something extraordinary unfolded. Memories began to surface. Memories that defied linear time. Memories from childhood, from the womb, and then further back, to places, to faces, to lives that had never been lived in this body. How can this be possible? Because consciousness is not contained within the brain. It does not begin at birth, nor does it end at death. Consciousness is the eternal fabric of your being, a thread woven through countless incarnations. Your subconscious mind holds the keys, and it speaks to you, always, but not through words. It speaks through patterns, through intuition, through the magnetic pull towards certain people, or the inexplicable repulsion from others. It speaks through recurring dreams, through spontaneous flashes of knowing, and yes, through irrational fears that seem to arise without warning or cause. Perhaps you've met someone and felt instantly connected, as if no introduction was ever needed. Or perhaps you've walked into a place you've never been, only to be overcome by a strange familiarity, a memory you cannot quite touch, yet you feel it in every cell. This is the language of the subconscious, the echo of your soul's journey through time. These fragments surface because the soul seeks integration, completion, healing. You are not meant to carry the wounds of the past indefinitely. They rise into awareness because they are ready to be seen, to be understood, and to be released. Fear, then, is not a curse. It is a signal, an invitation to look deeper, to explore the unseen corridors of your inner world. When Brian Weiss guided his patients back into past lives, a remarkable pattern emerged. Once they re-experienced the origin of their fear, often a traumatic death, a betrayal, a loss, a separation, the fear in their current life dissolved, completely, as if it had never existed, because the subconscious no longer needed to hold the warning. The story had been acknowledged, the pain had been felt, the cycle had been completed. Now consider this. What if the very fear that binds you today is actually the doorway to your freedom, not by avoiding it, not by suppressing it, but by courageously turning toward it, with curiosity, with openness, with compassion for yourself? This is not merely psychological work, it is spiritual archaeology, uncovering the buried layers of your being. It is the sacred act of remembrance. A return to wholeness, and it begins by asking the right questions. What is this fear teaching me? Where does it come from? And who was I before I became this version of myself? The answers are not outside of you. They are within, carved into the very architecture of your soul. As you breathe into this knowing, notice how the edges of fear soften. Notice how presence itself becomes your refuge. There is nothing to fight, only truth to remember. You are not broken, you are not cursed, you are not destined to live in the shadow of what once was. You are here now to reclaim your sovereignty, your freedom, your peace. And this journey has only just begun. There is a sacred truth often overlooked in the noise of modern life. The body remembers what the mind forgets. The tremor in your hands, the tightening of your chest, and the heaviness behind your eyes, these are not random. They are echoes, silent witnesses of stories that extend far beyond this lifetime. You've felt it before, haven't you? That sudden wave of sadness with no clear reason. The fear that arises when there's no apparent danger. The sense of being unsafe, even when you know rationally that you are. This is not imagination. It is not weakness. It is the imprint of unresolved experiences, carried not only from your childhood, but from incarnations long before this one. Brian Weiss discovered time and time again that the soul is like a vessel, carrying both the wisdom and the wounds of every life it has ever touched. And when those wounds remain unhealed, they manifest as patterns, as emotions, as fears, that quietly weave themselves into the fabric of your current existence. But the soul does not bring these memories forth to punish you. It brings them to liberate you. Imagine for a moment that every fear you carry is not an obstacle, but a messenger, a sacred key, designed to unlock the door to understanding, to healing, to transcendence. Perhaps you fear abandonment, Because once in another life you were left behind, forgotten or exiled. Perhaps you fear fire, because in a distant past it was the cause of your end. Or maybe, without knowing why, you resist love, because long ago love brought betrayal, and your soul learned to protect itself. Even now, these wounds are not visible, but they are felt deeply. And yet, there is a profound truth that shifts everything. What has been encoded can also be released. What was carried through time can be unburdened. This is the work that Weiss witnessed, not just in theory, but in living, breathing souls who walked into his office burdened by suffering they could not explain, only to leave lighter, freer, transformed. The process is one of remembrance, of willingly stepping into the unknown corridors of the subconscious and saying, "Show me. Show me where this pain began. Show me who I was. Show me what my soul has tried to teach me through this persistent suffering." And when the memory surfaces, a face, a moment, a lifetime, something extraordinary happens. The fear loses its grip, the body softens. The nervous system, once trapped in survival, remembers safety, perhaps for the first time in centuries. It is not the memory itself that heals, but the witnessing of it, the willingness to see what was hidden, to hold it with compassion, to breathe presence into what was once abandoned, because the truth is, no part of you is unworthy of love, not the frightened child, not the betrayed lover, not the soul lost in the darkness of a forgotten past. Every fragment is sacred, every story belongs, and as you remember, something within begins to reorganize. Your nervous system recalibrates, your energy shifts. The patterns that once felt like destiny begin to dissolve. This is how freedom unfolds, not by escaping, but by turning inward, by meeting yourself, fully, radically, courageously. And when you do it, you realize something astonishing. You were never broken, you were never cursed. You were only carrying what was never meant to be carried alone. You are the bridge between what was and what can be. And in that realization, a new chapter of your soul begins. There is a sacred moment when the veils begin to lift. When what was once hidden behind the walls of the subconscious starts to reveal itself, not as a ghost from the past, but as a guide for the present. In the gentle unfolding of regression, as Weiss witnessed, souls encounter themselves, not as this name, not as this face, but as something timeless, a consciousness that has worn countless identities and survived them all. And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. The fear that once felt so permanent, so suffocating, begins to unravel, because fear thrives in the unknown. But when the unknown becomes known, when the shadow is brought into the light, fear no longer holds its power. The trembling dissolves, the panic softens, the breath deepens, because now the soul remembers. It remembers that it has died before and survived beyond death. It remembers the betrayals and the forgiveness that followed. It remembers the loneliness and the return to wholeness, and with remembrance comes liberation. You see, suffering often persists because the mind loops in confusion. It asks, why am I like this? What's wrong with me? Believing the cause is rooted in this lifetime alone. But when the origin is revealed, when the memory arises, the confusion ends. Imagine someone who has lived with an unexplained fear of drowning. They avoid pools, lakes, the ocean. Their heart races even near water. And then, under hypnosis, the memory surfaces. A lifetime in which they were caught in a storm, pulled beneath the waves, their last breath stolen by the sea. As they relive the moment, not as punishment, but as observation, the fear releases. Because the subconscious was not warning them about this life. It was holding on to the imprint of that past event until it could be seen, felt, and released. This is not fantasy. This is the profound intelligence of the soul. You carry the blueprint of every life you've ever lived, and within that blueprint are both the gifts and the burdens, the wisdom you've gathered, and the wounds you've inherited from yourself. But here's the truth. Those wounds are not permanent. They are invitations, opportunities for healing that extend beyond the boundaries of time, and the process of remembering is the process of becoming whole. Every fear dissolved, every pattern released, every pain understood, is a step toward your true self. Not the self conditioned by this society, this family, this identity, but the vast self, the eternal self, the witness behind every story. Weiss often spoke of the tears that would flow when his patients encountered a past self, not out of fear, but out of recognition, out of the profound knowing that this was me, and now I understand. Understanding transforms everything. It frees the nervous system from constant vigilance. It frees the heart from the weight of confusion. It frees the soul from the cycles of repetition. And in that freedom, there is space for something new, for joy, for love without fear, for purpose unclouded by the shadows of the past. But this is not something to rush. It is not a race. The soul unfolds in its own perfect timing. And even now, just by hearing these words, something within you is stirring. A memory, a recognition, a truth that has waited lifetimes to be felt. Trust it. Trust the quiet pull that brought you here. Trust the knowing that rises, even if your logical mind resists, because the soul never forgets, and when you remember, you become free. There is something profoundly humbling and profoundly liberating in realizing that you are not just a product of this life. You are the culmination of countless journeys, countless stories, countless lessons. And yet, you are none of them. You are the awareness beneath them all. This is the revelation that arises when you begin to remember. When the fragments of the past are brought into the light, they no longer define you. They no longer bind you. They become what they were always meant to be: teachers, mirrors, gateways back to your original nature, the self that has never been wounded, never been broken, never been lost. This is the truth Weiss dedicated his life to sharing, that healing is not about fixing what is wrong. It is about remembering who you truly are. You are not the fear, you are not the wound, you are not the pattern. You are the witness, the observer, the eternal presence that has carried this consciousness through lifetimes, always growing, always evolving, always returning to love. As you embrace this truth, the weight begins to lift. The fear that once controlled you now feels like an echo, fading into the distance. The pain that seemed unbearable transforms into wisdom, into strength, into compassion for yourself and for all beings walking their own mysterious paths. Imagine waking up each day no longer feeling like a prisoner of invisible chains, but as a sovereign soul, aware, empowered, and deeply connected to something greater than anything this physical world can offer. Because that is what you are. The journey does not end here. In truth, it never ends. Life itself is a sacred continuum, an endless unfolding of consciousness remembering itself. The more you listen, the more you attune, the more the universe begins to speak to you, through synchronicities, through intuitions, through the gentle guidance of unseen hands leading you exactly where you need to be. And when fear arises, as it sometimes still will, you meet it differently now, not as an enemy, but as a familiar messenger. A reminder that something old is surfacing, not to harm you, but to be seen, embraced, and finally released. You are not at the mercy of your past, not anymore. You are the alchemist of your own experience, the one who chooses in every moment to bring light where there was once shadow, to breathe love where there was once fear. And perhaps that is why you are here now, listening, feeling, remembering, because some part of you already knows it is time. Time to stop running from the echoes of what once was. Time to stop believing that fear is your identity. Time to stand in the truth of your being and claim the freedom that has always been yours. The soul waits for no permission except the one you give yourself. So as you step forward from this moment, carry this knowing in your heart. You are infinite. You are timeless. You are whole. Every lifetime, every lesson, every shadow has brought you to this very breath. And this breath is your beginning. Your liberation is not ahead of you. It is here. It is now. It is within. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it.